It is about you. You are the selling point, and the landscape is changing. So be your authentic self because no one wants to go to work being miserable all day. Look at your own resume, look at your own LinkedIn, and look at your impact and what you have provided for that other company. And if you write things in that context, you're going to talk to the next employer.
In my opinion, it's about giving the customer what they really want and just blowing their mind once they get it. And that's what I really love to see, honestly.
Get people to do more of home cooking, home cooked meals, healthy meals, so we can all live long and happy.
I'm very proud to be a mom because, not for nothing, women are amazing.
Oh my God, the sacrifice, and how we make it look so easy.
I was just telling Joanne before we got on the call, I said I had to run from my daughter's school. They had an Easter egg hunt. I said, all right, Mom, I gotta go to work. But you know, just as moms, we make it happen. You know, supernatural abilities. We are the example for them, you know, and I know that with them being a better version of us.
You have to try. You never know how creative you are until you try. Because I didn't think I was creative. I found my creative side during a horrible time in my life.
Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. It is the last Thursday of the month. My name is Athenia Rodney, CEO and founder of Juneteenth NYC. Also, the creative inspiration behind Coaching with Athenia Rodney, where we offer coaching services to our businesses and entrepreneurs who are looking to expand their reach. Today is a very special day. Today is our last day also where we are talking about going out to vote. Next week on Tuesday is the last day for a lot of the states for you to go out to be able to vote. I've already voted. I'm here in Georgia. We had early vote for about 2 or 3 weeks now. I know in New York, they are starting early vote as well. So if you do have the opportunity to go and vote early, I highly suggest it because the day of is going to be hectic. And you want to be safe and in your homes and watching the results as they unfold throughout the day. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to our team of who we're going to have on today. So we have Opal Lee, who was supposed to be here on today, but she has been sick, so she's not able to. But we do have some recordings and some things from her. So we are still going to talk about who she is. And a lot of you are like, who is Opal Lee? And if you are following us on Juneteenth and don't know who Opal Lee is, I clutched my pearls. But I will introduce you to her. Dr. Opal Lee, or what we like to affectionately call her as Grandma Opal Lee, is a renowned civil rights activist and educator, affectionately known as, like I said, Grandmother Juneteenth. At 98 years old, she gained national attention for her 2,000-mile walk from Fort Worth, Texas to Washington, D.C. In 2016, advocating for Juneteenth's recognition as a national holiday, her passionate commitment to civil rights and social justice has made her a prominent voice in the fight for equality. Through her work, Opal continues to educate and inspire others about the importance of voting rights. And she's going to talk a little bit about that later. Civic engagement and the historical significance of Juneteenth in American history. She definitely has been instrumental in helping to get Juneteenth signed. She was able to be there at the signing of the Juneteenth as a national holiday. So I'm so happy that I was able to touch and be in partnership and relationship with her on that. We're also thrilled we have a twofer for today, to introduce to you Angus Fischer. Is deeply committed to the Brooklyn, New York area where he grew up in Brownsville. His community service journey began in 2008 with the Cypress Hills Local Development Corporation, leading him to establish his own nonprofit focused on engaging residents and promoting self-sustainable growth in East Brooklyn. As a leader and activist, Angus advocates for the rights and well-being of his fellow Brooklynites, inspiring others to join his efforts for positive change. Beyond his formal role, he is a supportive friend, loving brother, and devoted son, reflecting the values instilled in him by his family. So in today's session, we're going to be talking about Flip the Ballot, a conversation with Opal Lee on voting rights, poll taxes, and empowering every vote. We will have a plethora of discussion. If you have any questions, feel free. And I am going to welcome Angus to the stage. Welcome, welcome. How are you doing today? I think you're muted. I don't know. Okay. It looks like he's having some technical difficulty. Well, that is okay. What we wanted to start off today talking about anyway is about the vote. So we have a video that we want to share with you while Angus gets back on from Dr. Martin Luther King. And what Dr. Martin Luther King said almost 20 something years ago is very relevant today. So let's take a listen.
Suffice it to say that we stand in one of the most momentous periods of human history. And in these days of emotional tension, when the problems of the world are gigantic in extent and chaotic in detail, all men of goodwill must make the right decisions. And on Tuesday, 1 week from today, the people of this nation must decide whether they want America to remain true to the great words of the founding fathers. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We must decide whether those words will be firmly etched into the structure of our nation, or whether we will allow our nation to be relegated to a second-rate power in the world with no moral voice. We must decide next Tuesday whether America will take the high road of justice and peace and compassion for the poor and underprivileged, or whether this nation will tread the low road of man's inhumanity to man, of injustice, of short-sightedness. Each of us has a moral responsibility, if we are of voting age and if we are registered, to participate in that decision. I come here to urge every person under the sound of my voice to go to the polls on the 3rd of November and vote your convictions. Now, I know you're intelligent people, and I don't need to tell you who you should vote for. I don't have any fear about that. You know who to vote for. I'm just asking you to vote. Now, just if you need, very seriously, never before in the history of our nation has a candidate for the presidency taken such a negative stand on the demands of our Judeo-Christian heritage for justice and understanding, goodwill, and compassion for the poor and peace. And so all men of goodwill will go to the polls on November the 3rd. And I hope we will have a great day in our nation, so that when we wake up on the 4th of November, we will know that America has made the right decision.
Wow. Well, So as you see, other than the fact that it is November 5th, that is election day, so much of what he shared is unfortunately still we're in that space right now. We encourage people to go to the polls to make sure that they're just going out to vote. It's not about if you are who you're voting for. Well, it is about who you're voting for, but it's not for me to tell you who to vote for. But it is definitely about for you to just go out and vote, and make your voice heard. So welcome, Angus. I think you are able to. Can you unmute?
Yes,
There we go. Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
So I don't know if you got to hear the video. What were your thoughts about that?
Oh, so I find it very interesting that as Martin Luther King spoke on some of these exact same pressing issues that we're being faced with today, we're kind of going through another cycle. And those words that he spoke in his speech is still so true today than it was 60 years ago, 70 years ago when he gave that speech. It's still pertinent that we, the people, the residents of the community, stand up to know, be educated, to take our God-given right and ability that we fought so hard for, struggled so hard for, to have our voices heard. And we definitely do need to heed the warning and heed the message to come out and vote. If you have the ability to vote, come out and vote. If you have the chance to vote, because there are some people even to this day that don't have the right to vote for one reason or another.
I totally agree. There are so many things, and it's like, why are people pushing so much for everyone to go out and vote? What are your thoughts about that? Like, why do you feel like there's a need or for the push to go out and vote?
So a big need for the push to go out is that just some of the candidates. So in our communities, we have been lacking building up actual community leaders or people that can represent the actual need of the people on the ground. So because of that, we end up in a place that we are today where we have an election and we have two candidates that have polarizing views of the future of America. And also in those polarizing views, there's still some disconnect from the average American, predominantly the melanated American. And we, if we were more connected in a way to uplift the people that we feel and know do the work in the community and stand for what the majority of people in the community stand for, then we will, me personally, I would feel more at ease with an election like this and walking in there with confidence to know exactly the right person to vote for because of all of what they stand for and all that they've done, the track record. But with these two candidates, it's a little choppy for myself. So it makes it a little bit more, you have to try to find, without skewing anything, you got to find the good and the wholesome, the community in those elected officials. And sometimes you got to dig deeper. It's not just about looking at them for who they are and what people portray them to be, but sometimes it's also about looking at what they stand for and how that message resonates and sits with you for the America that you want to see.
Yeah, I like that you said looking at them for the holisticness part of who they are or who they represent, because I feel like the words in my mind will continue to just be words. And it's not, if you look at their track records, if you look at their history, and to your point, and most people's point, like both of their track records are not very in line with who I would want to have in office. But as everyone is sharing, we got to go with who's the lesser of the two evils right now. And I've been, it's funny because I've been studying Revelations lately, and there's a piece in my mind about the election, regardless of who gets into office, that whatever happens is supposed to happen, right? Is what is part of what's destined for us as a people, and just continue to stay prayerful, and to stay fasting and in the Word and understanding. And I don't mean to get biblical or any of it, but just knowing that there's a grace over us as a nation, and that we need to I guess lean into that. So I say that to say I want to jump into a little bit of questions. Then we're going to show a video that we took with Mother Opal a couple of weeks ago when she was here in Georgia, just talking about her experience with voting and all of the things that she kind of had to endure in that place. And I want you to think about it as you're hearing her speak, how that is relative to us today. So if we can bring up that video.
And you see, at 98, they expect Mother Opal to remember all that good stuff.
Come on, 98. Come on.
And I don't, but I'm going to tell you that I'm the mother of 4 children. I had to pay a poll tax of $1.75 before I could vote.
Mm.
And there was a time when I didn't have but that $1.75, and I had to make a choice of whether to vote or to buy some food for the children. I chose to pay the poll tax.
Come on.
So I could vote. Mind you, there's a God up there. Them kids didn't miss me. That's right.
Made a way.
I'm telling you this because even today, we don't have to pay no poll tax.
Mm-hmm.
But we are teaching our children that they need to vote. We are the ones who need to be on trial because the young people haven't been taught how important it is for us to go to the polls. They don't know what we've been through, and we've been through a lot. I have. I was in a neighborhood where we just bought a house. My parents bought a house, and my mom had it fixed up so nice. But on the 19th of June, people started gathering. There was 500 of them, the paper said, and the police were there. Our parents sent us to friends several blocks away, and they left under cover of darkness. Those people tore that place asunder. They drove the furniture out and burned it. They did despicable things. But our parents bought another house. They worked like Trojans. At 926 East Terrell Street in Fort Worth, Texas. That's where I was when I finished high school at 16. And my mom was going to send me back to Wiley College. It's a university now. In Marshall, where I was born. But I got married. Oh, she was so disappointed. She wouldn't even go to the wedding at our church.
Oh.
Took me 4 years and 4 babies to realize I was going to have to raise my husband too.
Mm.
I cut my losses, went home to my mom, and had nerve enough to say, I'm ready to go to college now. And she says, I got no money to send you to nobody's college. But she says, I'll keep your children. I worked. Oh, I worked on more than one job to get that money to go to Wiley. And guess what I did? I spent it. I bought the children a television so she wouldn't have to run all over the community looking for them. I went to Wiley without a dime. They put me to work in the college bookstore. Now, I didn't quit the job in Fort Worth because I didn't know what they were going to do. And I'd come back and working on weekends, and my mom would work it all the week, and she would collect the check. Nobody knew the difference because the work got done. I couldn't stay at Wiley 4 years. I was through in 3.5. Went back to Fort Worth and got a job teaching school that paid $2,000 a year. I couldn't feed 4 children on $2,000. I got another job. So if I was at school from 8 to 3, there'd be a car waiting for me. And from 4 to 12, I worked at Lockheed Martin. I'd probably still be doing that, but they laid people off at Lockheed. I tell you that for me, if you start something that's extremely important for you and for your family and for people in your community, don't give it up. Don't give it up. It's just too much that we need to do for each other. And voting is one of those things. You know young people in your neighborhood, and you need to convince them to go and vote. I had to make the decision. Have I told you? I paid that poll tax, $1.75. And it was the only $1.75 I had. Pay the poll tax, I buy some food. I paid the poll tax, but there's a God up there, and a child never missed a meal that I had. So I'm leaving it with you to get the children to vote. Yes. I know you can't do corporal punishment these days.
Well, thank you. So you heard from Mother Opal. I mean, you heard my commentary while I was there recording it. But it was just hearing that for me, knowing that I have children, it was important for me to make sure I took my kids with me to the polls to vote so that I actually had them there voting with me. Before we went to vote, we went through all of the questions online and we found who we were voting for. We researched them. We talked about who they were, what they were doing, if they were returning, why we should vote for them. We looked on their social media pages. That to me was a lesson, a teachable moment to be able to grow them up. My oldest is 15 and he's about to be voting in a couple of years. And my other two, 10 and 8, they were so engaged and so involved in it. But Angus, I want to hear from you. What were your thoughts from Mother Opal's speech and what she shared?
So Grandma Opal, she yeah, I wanted to call her Mother Opal and everything. She told me about myself. She said, "No, I'm Grandma Opal." I said, "Okay." I tried to give you a couple years back. She said, "No, I earned my years." So for me, I was like, "Okay, respectfully, Grandma, you got it." So but the words that she spoke were so real because and as I said earlier, the disconnect between our American politics and the school, the education, the youth, the people is totally being washed out. And this is one of the crucial reasons why I feel that my organization is doing the work that they're doing, and we're plugged into the election locally in our community so much, is because there's so much misinformation and lack thereof information when it comes to the elections. We have to rely, a lot of times we rely on what's being put out by the Board of Elections, Department of Elections, but it's not always a full wraparound of a definition of an understanding. So for us to be able to go online and Google, or let's just say use other search engines as well, we want to try to jump on different search engines because there's different research algorithms with different, you know, unfortunately, information is so skewed out there that we have to do more than 3 dives to really know what is being told and compare that information that we're getting so that it can be, so that we can find the truth, or at least the greater truth in the message. So having our youth come to the polls with us, having our youth understand what the process is to get the vote to cast your vote, the 3 processes in an election site. It's supposed to be meant to be seamless, and it's supposed to be 3 stops in the poll site, so and get you out within 5 minutes. But that is if you know the information that you need to know when you get in there. So once you get in there, a lot of people are confused with the people that's on the ballot because they're like, who are these people? So they don't, a lot of people don't vote for these people, or don't vote for who they don't know. They vote for who they do know. So if you, in the last couple weeks, you came into town, or you started showing your face in the last few weeks right before the election, that kind of imprints in your mind a little bit more than the person that maybe showcased or did any outreach sooner than that. So it's like it's
it becomes, I feel like it becomes a popularity contest. Whose name did you see more often? Whose name, were you able to identify with? Or that's where the colloquial terms will come in, and the fun. Whose campaign did you see what was the funniest or made you laugh? Or like, I don't feel like with some people that is getting at the heart of like, why are you voting for this person? And my husband and I constantly will go back and forth, and he'll push me and he'll be like, so why do you want to choose this person, or why do you think this person should be voted on? And we'll go at length in conversation, and he was like, but what about this other one? So having that kind of conversation, that kind of discourse is helpful because it allows you to really process your true feelings, where it might be coming from, where it might be stemming from. It might just be surface, but at least with those kind of conversations, you're able to identify that and go deeper, like dig and find. And because I've had those kind of conversations with some of my friends, whether it be with the Mocha moms or with my PTA peers and stuff like that, that's what it forced me to go deeper instead of just going to the polls and just kind of, willy-nilly and making a vote on somebody who I didn't do any kind of research and don't know anything about their background other than I just saw a post outside on my way in. So one of the things that Grandmother Opal mentioned was this poll tax. And I know, I guess both of us have not had to experience that poll tax. So what do you think about the poll tax and how, if we had it going on today, do you feel like people would be paying taxes to go and vote?
So with how hard it is to get the residents in the community to come out and vote, I think that if it was a charge, that definitely would drive down the current number of people that come out to vote in the community. And if even if stuff was the same way it was before, it would have drove down the community, because there was barrier after barrier after barrier that was created to melanated people to kind of discourage them from voting. So yes, you had the poll tax at one point, and then you had at another point you had to own property in order to vote. If today in today's society, if that was still a norm, 99% of the melanated communities would not even be eligible to vote, because they don't own any property. They don't own their home. They don't own their house. They don't own the business that in the community. So those would have crossed them out automatically. So a lot of this fight for the rights that we have is so crucial for us to utilize them, because if we don't use them, we'll lose them, because the system will look at it and say, hey, well, this population isn't voting, so why are we putting energy into them? Let's put the energy into the population that is voting, because they're looking to make a change. And that's not based off of a color or anything. That's based off of the engagement that these individuals are offering, and how important they feel it is to participate in the process.
Well, thank you for bringing that up. You mentioned a couple of things, and I just wanted to do a little bit of background. So I researched to find like what have been historically some of the things who have prevented individuals, not just melanated people, but individuals from voting. So in 1787, we had the constitutional limits, which is originally the U.S. Constitution left voting eligibility to the states. So that means that voting was only based per state. So you had to, similar to today, there's still kind of laws that are general to just states, to each state. So voting eligibility to the states, leading many to restrict voting to property owning white men, like you were just saying. That was in 1787. States had diverse rules, but generally excluded women, non-whites, and non-property owners. So that was 1787, that people were not able to vote unless they, like you said, they had property. If they were non-white or if they were females. Then we had 1865 to 1960. We have the Black Codes and Jim Crow laws. So during that time, this was after the Civil War, Southern states enacted Black Codes and later Jim Crow laws to restrict Black voting rights. This included literacy tests, so which means you had to take a test. And I think Grandmother Opal mentioned something like that too, and I wasn't really sure what she was referring to. But you had to take a test in order to vote. Like you, like imagine that. Then there was
and not even to cut you off, sorry, but even on that test, some of the research that I found was that it was a literacy test for one. For one, you needed to know how to read, which we didn't have the right to education at the time. So that was one barrier, even in that fashion. And then some of the questions that they were putting on these literacy tests was, who are the governors, who was the president, who is all of these people that we were never given the opportunity to learn about or even know. So it was foreign. It was made to set us up to fail.
Yeah. And wow. So just imagine. So like, back then, so now it's free. Like this is what liberty looks like. And we take advantage of it because we are not paying attention to, like, these were laws, there were rules in the past that prevented us. So imagine you having to take a test, like Angus shared, a literacy test, pay poll taxes. And there were also grandfather clauses designed to disenfranchise African Americans. So that's 1865 to 1960. That is not that long ago. Literacy tests. 1890 to 1960, literacy tests required voters to demonstrate reading comprehension or answer complex constitutional questions. These were administered unfairly to disenfranchised Blacks and other minority voters until banned by the Voting Rights Act in 1965. Again, not that long ago. Poll taxes started in 1800s and it ended in 1964. Many states required citizens to pay a tax to vote. Poll taxes disproportionately affected Black voters as well as poor white citizens. The 24th Amendment, which happened in 1964, later outlawed poll taxes in federal elections. So that, again, is something that is no longer there. The grandfather clause, which was 1890s to 1915. Some states allowed people to bypass literacy tests if their grandfathers had voted before the Civil War, effectively limiting Black citizens whose grandfathers had been enslaved. The Supreme Court ruled these unconstitutional in 1915. So this is just, it gets more. There's more. So then we have felony disenfranchisement. This is based on different states. Many states implemented laws restricting voting rights for individuals convicted of felonies. These laws disproportionately affect Black and minority communities and vary widely state by state. And it is actually a misnomer. And a lot of people, we wanted to make sure that you are understanding that you need to check with your states, because not all states abide by that. And those with felonies can vote in most states, but people are not aware of that. The next one is voter ID laws, which started in the 2000s, and it is still going on presently. Recently, many states have passed voter ID laws requiring specific forms of identification to vote. Proponents argue it prevents fraud, while critics claim it disenfranchises marginalized groups without easy access to getting an ID. So say you just turned 18 and you didn't go and get a license or get a state ID, you would be ineligible to vote in certain states. Next, gerrymandering and redistricting. Although not directly metering, gerrymandering involves manipulating electoral district boundaries to favor certain groups, often marginalizing minority communities' voting power. So where they would redistribute the power that a community has by not allowing you to vote in that particular district. So which means they could have more Republicans if they just changed the demographics of where that particular area voting was allowed. And then the last is voter roll purges. Some states routinely purge their voter rolls to remove ineligible voters, but sometimes this results in eligible voters, especially minorities, being removed from the rolls. And really what that means is, there are votes that happen in between the presidential elections. And if you, for some reason, did not go and vote in any of those others, they would remove you from being a voter, being allowed to vote, because they would say that they would consider you inactive because you didn't vote in the last 4 years. So making sure that you're voting every year is also one way to make sure that your name stays on the ballot, and also checking to make sure that your name is on the ballot. I did that several times before I went to go and vote. I checked to make sure my name was on the ballot. Even though I do vote every year, I still wanted to make sure that was not going to be an issue when I went to vote. I don't know if you have any ideas or any what your opinions about that, Angus.
Definitely. A lot of those are interesting weight barriers for people that was created to keep voters from being able to vote. And as a person that works with the Board of Elections in New York City, I see a lot of some of those things still in practice, just in different ways. Mm-hmm. And the reason why I decided to step up and take such a keen role in the Board of Elections is because I noticed these things, and so many of the elected officials, they haven't noticed it, and then other elected officials, they actually played on it, as far as like they not knowing that majority of the community, more than 50% of the community, don't come out to vote. They focus specifically on that other 50%, that the other population of less than 50% that do come out and vote, to acquire their vote and to solidify their position in that role, which I kind of believe it kind of teeters in the gray area of gerrymandering, because you're kind of leaving out the rest of the community purposefully.
Yeah.
And not campaigning to them, so that your campaign to some of those non-voters can potentially be a vote for the opposite person, because they may not want to vote for you. So it's kind of like, why waste my energy and resources to promote in that area when nobody in that area knows really about me, but it's a part of your district, and your whole district should know about you. So you should be campaigning to the whole district. It could go so deep with the way how these things are, how they're creating nuances to continue these barriers on melanated minority communities so that they don't come out to vote. Right. And something else to kind of highlight, in New York City, the board of elections is still a board of individuals that sit and govern, and it's not necessarily a board in New York City. Whereas every other city agency turned into a department. They moved from a board to a department. With a department, it moves inside of the system of within the system. So whatever that system may be, whether it's New York City system, New York State system, but as a board, there's appointees that sit on a board. There are people that aren't voted to have those positions, people that stay in those seats for decades to dictate the changes that they feel should happen and need to happen, so that the people that they want to get into office will continue to get into office. And that's just, some back end to that, even a department versus a board, and knowing the power that those entities have, and, delegating and kind of processing the vote of the people underneath them. So,
That definitely, yeah, this makes sense. And I didn't even realize that. And yeah, because you always hear like the board of elections, and never really thought about the details of like, how do those people get to be on those boards? And that is, it's funny how those are elected, but everything else, the board of elections are appointed roles instead of elected roles, which they should be elected roles, since they are to represent the community in which they serve. But I know we're running on time, and I do want to get to the idea of the flip the ballot. If you can explain what exactly that means for us.
Okay, so this is flipping the ballot. So at least in New York City, we have a 4-page, 2 separate page back and front ballot. And what's not really being spoken a lot about by our elected officials is the flipping of the ballot, to make sure that you kind of understand what's going on all sides of the ballot. So you would have on the front of the ballot, you would have the candidates that are the people that you're going to be voting for: president, not controller, president, senator, Congress, You're going to be voting on a couple of other positions that's going to be there from state to state. Some of them vary, but also we got some proposals that's on the back of our ballot here in New York City. We have 6 actual proposals. So I'm not telling anybody in which way to per se vote. I just want people to know that that these proposals are, for one, created and came up by majority of them came up by the mayor's office, and the mayor's office proposed them to put them on the ballot so that the residents of New York City can vote on some of the increases into the mayoral control of New York City. So those mayoral proposals is proposal 1 through not 1 through 6, 2 through 6, as there are 6 in total. The first one is to add the first proposal adds certain protections to the state Bill of Rights, and some of these protections is to include sexual orientation, gender identity, pregnancy outcomes. It would also protect New Yorkers who seek access to reproductive health care for discrimination on those bases. Proposal 2 is for the Department of Sanitation would have increased authority to keep all public properties clean, including parks and highways, medians, and to hold street vendors accountable for following rules at these locations. It would also allow Department of Sanitation to regulate how New Yorkers put out their garbage for collection. Proposal 2, the city council currently provides it's asking for the city council to provide estimates of proposed laws being voted on. The proposal would give the mayor's office of management and budget the opportunity to provide its own cost assessment for proposed laws and require the city council to publish their cost estimates before public hearings on proposed laws. So in a nutshell, this is kind of saying that if a new law in New York City is to be proposed by city council, they have to do a cost analysis of what that budget is going to cost to implement its rights or rules. So me personally, I don't see this to be as beneficial to the larger body of residents in the community, because sometimes the city, state, and government, they create laws and amendments to certain things in our community, and they don't outline a budget of how much it's going to cost to implement that law.
Mm-hmm.
So why should, I look at it as another barrier to us working with our local electeds to create laws to help better our communities and as it stands. But let's go to proposal 4. City council must give 30 days notice before voting on public safety laws that impact the police department, the Department of Corrections, or the fire department. During this time, the mayor and affected city agencies may also hold public hearings to hear additional public input.
And concerns. I mean, that's good. I mean, because at least it's given time. A lot of times you just hear things and comes down the line, and it's like, oh, when did that happen? How come we weren't notified as a community?
So just to giving a little extra on that as well. Yes, that's good, but it's all that is already a process, a practice.
Hmm.
So
But is it being adhered to?
it is actually being adhered to. But what I want to kind of point out with this is the extra layer that they're putting on it, which is that the mayor has to basically sign off on city council wanting to have any of these laws implemented or changed. So it kind of puts them in there, so it makes it less democratic.
Yeah, it gives them the final say.
Yeah, which doesn't, in a certain sense, with mayoral control of a city, it limits the voice.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because yeah, that's a good point, and I didn't think about that. And it's like, yeah, they sandwiched it around all of these other good things, and then kind of threw in this extra part in there so that you're not really paying attention to that one thing, especially since you have a short period of time. It's a lot to read. Like I'm just looking at all of the different votes that need to happen. Like you said, it's the congressional election, there's the presidential election, there's the state
senatorial.
And then there are the ballot measures that you just mentioned. And then there's also some judicial elections that are going to be happening as well. So imagine, you said 4 pages. Going through 4 pages. It's like by the time you get to all of these referendums at the end and trying to read through all of them in its full nuances, you're going to miss something like, where the mayor will have control over the local city agencies. So, wow. So thank you for bringing that to our attention, Angus. And thank you for even sharing and talk about flipping the ballot and the importance of flipping the ballot and what that kind of looks like in real time. We are almost complete with our time today. It has been a great hour of time. Unfortunately, again, we're sad that Grandmother Opal was not able to join us. We do pray that she is well and all is good on her end. But we are glad that we still got to hear her voice in this space and to hear about her story when it comes to the poll tax and what she has had to experience. And thank you, Angus, for sharing about flipping the ballot and what that looks like and how we need to be paying attention to some of those key words in the documents to make sure that we're answering them properly. So I'll leave us with the last question, as we always ask. And I know you were with us a couple of weeks ago, but Angus, again, because just like depending on where you are in life, your answer may be different. What does Juneteenth mean to you?
Juneteenth means freedom. Juneteenth is the ability to express, to be creative, to have a right to do so and move forward in that. And as we heard from Grandma Opal, Juneteenth is freedom for not just the melanated, but freedom for everybody, the equal rights that is God given to all living and breathing men and women. And we heard also some of that in Martin Luther King's speech at the beginning.
As well. Yes, I totally agree. In Martin Luther King's speech and just pushing, again, everybody saying the same thing: go out and vote, go out and vote, go out and vote. So we do have a short commercial that we wanted to share before we close out with you all. And if we can cue that up, and then we'll come back and we'll close this out.
20+ years experience, Athene Rodney of AR Business Expansion drives growth in service, marketing, and finance. Coaching entrepreneurs like LNR Consultants, Athenia Rodney Coaching, and DJ Demo. I will work with you to identify your goals and create a tailored plan for success, providing the resources and support necessary for your business growth. Together, we'll streamline your processes to save time and money while aligning your vision with the tools and knowledge needed for clarity. With our help, you'll easily visualize the steps required to stay on track and achieve your objectives. Join us to transform your business.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. As we have shared before, we are helping our local business owners to grow and expand in different ways. We will be having some info sessions starting in November. So we hope that you will join us and they're free info sessions just to learn a little bit more about different ways, standard operations and procedures. So continue to follow us on our Instagram page, Juneteenth NY, to continue to learn about what we have coming up. We will be starting our applications. Well, we already started applications for Juneteenth vendors for 2025. So if you are an entrepreneur and looking to get your business in front of a new audience, or to try to attract more business, this is definitely an opportunity for you. We have a plethora of people. We have over 10,000 people who come to our events every year, and we look forward to having them visit your table at some point throughout that day. So definitely sign up. This year, you are in for a treat if you sign up to be a vendor. We have so many perks this year that we are looking to offer, because we want to give more than we receive. So if you are interested, definitely go to our website, put interested in the chat, and we will be sure to DM you the link to the registration. Or you can go to our website, which is juneteenthny.com, to register to be a vendor. We also will be starting looking for our Black King. So if you know of a illustrious Black male in the New York City area, or the tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, that you think would be great to honor, who does some amazing things in our community, please go to our website and nominate them. We are looking for you to vote someone in. We will have a nomination process, and we will elect 28 men under the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. So any one of those 7 principles, if you think someone you know embodies one of those principles, please elect them. And that is all for me. Again, my name is Athenia Rodney, CEO and founder of Juneteenth NYC. We are highly excited that you joined us on today. We hope you got something out of it. So have a great one. Enjoy your weekend, and go out and vote on Tuesday. I look forward to seeing you on Thursday. Have a good one. Bye.